Cool.
So many wires.
Just a note for our viewers now that every episode is going to have a different background and location.
Yes.
Within the same studio. How was your Christmas?
It was really nice. It was chill. It was the first Christmas with the baby.
You did your reds and greens while wearing reds and greens, right?
Oh my gosh. I didn't do that. That would have been a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you text me that on Christmas Eve?
I figured you'd be doing it. I was like, that's the most, is that the most?
Really, I feel like it was a huge opportunity lost.
Do you get most of your views from doing your reds and greens when you do your reds and greens?
People really like my reds and greens. You know, I even had a friend text me and say once that she had a dream about me, and in her dream, I was taking my reds and greens.
I may have had a similar dream.
About me too.
Honestly.
I'm always doing the reds and greens in people's dreams.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I just see it every day.
Yeah, it's my thing.
So it would make sense that it would seep into my subconscious.
Yeah.
While I'm unconscious.
That's what I'm doing.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah. How was your Christmas?
Christmas was fine. It was quiet.
Yeah.
Baby got some gifts.
Did she open them herself? Does she know what was going on?
We started it. It's like
Okay.
one of those things where you start it. And
Right.
they finish it and they open it. But yeah, she liked it. We got her like a wooden camera and then a couple like different puzzle things. She got some clothes from family.
Aw.
It was nice.
I feel bad I didn't get her a gift. I didn't get my own daughter a gift.
It's like
So
you don't have to get other people's kids gifts.
I just figured because she's not even 3 months yet. So what am I going to get her?
Yeah,
my mom got her something.
You don't need to get infants gifts.
Yeah, I mean, that's just for the adults, really. It's
Yeah.
just fun for the adults.
I think so. Yeah, you don't need to do that. Speaking of Christmas, though, I am a Santa denier.
Hold on. But Santa is one of the most beloved traditions of Christmas, and it is a tradition that I think must be preserved and should be preserved for the sake of imaginative, fun children. What are you looking up on your phone?
I'm not looking up anything. Well, this is what I was actually.
I just feel like now, and I know. Hold on. I just want to say, I just feel like it's now a thing. It's like countercultural to not want your kids to be into Santa.
Well, here's the thing now. Online, it's become a popular meme that like the leftist soy boys are now Santa deniers, and the people who believe in Santa are like the Giga Chads. You know what I mean?
Oh, I haven't seen that. Okay.
So. Here's the thing. What I think about it is, and Carly had a great line about this. She's just like, I don't want some fat white guy to be getting the credit for the presents that I'm buying my kids, which I think is pretty funny. But at the same time, I think Santa Claus, Santa Claus as he exists today, I think is an extension of corporations.
Yeah, it's Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola invented Santa.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Essentially.
But here's the thing. The story of St. Nicholas is such a cool, badass story. Like, he was a really cool guy. So I was like, why don't we teach her about St. Nicholas and talk to her about why we have these traditions that we have today? Like, did you know? Okay, so in the time of is it Diocletian or whatever, is a Roman emperor, because Santa actually existed in the 4th century AD. Okay, he was a Greek bishop. So Santa Claus, Greek dude. Why? I don't know. You know, why we're having Chinese food and stuff like that on Christmas. We should all be having gyros.
I thought that was the Jewish thing.
That is the Jewish thing.
tradition
But
is to have Chinese
turkey,
food.
ham, or whatever. Gyros, lamb.
Right.
You know what I mean? Shish kebabs.
I would love that.
Stuff like that. But, so, during this time of this Roman emperor, he persecuted Christians, locked them up, tortured them, killed them. And St. Nick was in jail. For being a bishop, and when Constantine, and he eventually got out, but he was about to be killed, but I think he was spared. Like that's the miracle around him. But when Constantine called the Council of Nicaea to basically talk about the divinity of Christ and the Holy Trinity, that's what the Council of Nicaea was about. There were about, I can't remember this number. This is my Catholic school. Either 300 or 800 bishops were invited to the Council of Nicaea to talk about this. And there was this one bishop from Egypt where he's like, well, Jesus Christ was Christ. He wasn't the Son of God. These are 3 separate entities. And St. Nick is getting like, he's getting heated. He's sitting there like, this motherfucker, like, I'm not, you know what I mean? I don't know. And then the bishop from Egypt is like, no, I'm telling y'all. And St. Nick gets up, crosses the aisle, and slaps the bejesus out of this bishop.
Are you joking?
Not joking. It's actual history. And he gets
This is a historical fact?
Yep. He gets locked up for it. And
he just got really fired up, eh?
He did. He was like, no. He's the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. They're one entity.
Right.
and that's where the Nicene Creed comes from. If you're Catholic, during some point of Mass, you say, "We believe in God, the Holy Father, the maker of heaven and earth, of all that is seen and unseen. We believe in His Son, Jesus Christ." But it all ties them all in together. So Father, Son, Holy Spirit, but all as one entity. And that's what the Council of Nicaea was called for, and Saint Nick wasn't having any of it. So he was in jail, but then the bishops later decided, he may have acted out of turn, but he wasn't wrong. They let him out, and Saint Nick is actually, I think he is a patron saint of children. He was super, super charitable when it came to kids. He would rescue, there are pictures of him, rescuing kids who've been kidnapped and stuff like that. But one of the things where we get the stockings from and gifts is because there's a story about a very poor man who had 3 daughters, and he didn't have a dowry for them. And if you don't know what a dowry is
part of the patriarchy.
Yeah, they're part of the patriarchy. No. They are gifts or land or money that would go along with your daughter so that you could basically incentivize a dude into marrying her. So no dowry, no guy wants to touch that. So he was scared that his daughters were going to get sold into slavery. So the thing is in this guy's house, while he has stockings and shoes next to a fire to dry out, that St. Nicholas threw small bags of gold into the house, and they just happened to land in the stockings. And that's where, they put the stockings by the fireplace.
Oh,
so, I think
cute.
That story, the history, and understanding, where those traditions come from is more important than, making my daughter believe in some invisible guy that if she
watch out, you better not cry.
Yeah, it's stupid. It's like, okay, you better be good because you're not going to get gifts. It's like the invisible hand of Santa Claus can be equated to the invisible hand of government. If you just be a good person and you keep your head down and be quiet, the government's going to take care of you and give you free shit. No.
No, you know why?
Sorry,
Santa Claus is not.
I should have given like a little disclaimer saying if you have kids and they're around watching this, which they shouldn't be, get them out of the room because Santa Claus isn't real.
Why Santa Claus is not comparable to the federal government? Because Santa Claus only gives and he never takes. Unlike the federal government, which takes and takes and takes and takes and takes.
What's that he's eating? What's that he's drinking?
That is a gift
offering. He takes cookies and he drinks milk.
But his gifts do not hinge on whether you have given him cookies. The cookies are just a nice thank you.
I think Santa Claus
He's a giver, not a taker. The federal government takes everything you got.
I think he's going to second guess who he's giving gifts to if there's no cookies or milk left down there.
Like last year, I'm still salty about this. Last year, my bonus, I got a huge bonus in 2020. It's like my first time ever getting an end of year bonus. The government took like almost half of it. That's not Santa Claus-like.
Yeah.
Welcome
to life in the States where your bonuses get stacked.
Oh,
Nothing
my
new.
gosh.
See, this is like when you become an adult and you start getting, a salary and you start getting your paychecks and you see actually how much you're giving away, especially with bonuses. I've always wanted my bonuses in cash, but for the past 15 years, I think 12 out of those 15 years have been freelance. So I never was entitled to end of the year bonuses. But when I would get them, I'd be like, oh, sweet.
Until the government takes half of it.
An extra $3,000 this month. Oh man, only like $1,700. Nice.
I hate the government so much.
I don't like them.
Which is why Santa Claus is not at all like the government. But okay, hold on. Let's go back to Santa Claus for a second. So you're never going to tell Ro that Santa Claus is real.
No.
You're never going to encourage her to believe in Santa Claus.
No, what's the point?
Okay, here's the point.
Because when she turns 8 or 10, she's going to be like, oh, he's not real. Great. So I had those 7 or 8 years of my parents lying to me about where these gifts are coming from.
Yeah, but all kids believe in things that aren't real. And we as parents always encourage them to be imaginative. Like kids think that dragons are real.
Yes.
Kids think that
Komodo
Rapunzel
dragons
was real, and that Rapunzel's the one with the hair, right?
Yeah.
Kids think that Rapunzel was real and that Snow White woke up from the dead because her true love kissed her. Like the kids in their imagination.
Well, these are things that all have stories behind them with lessons to be learned.
Well, you can have her believe in Santa Claus and tell her the story.
I'm going to teach her who the real Santa Claus is.
Saint Nick.
So this is why we hang stockings above the fireplace, bro.
Do you open your stockings before the gifts? That's what we do.
Yeah,
you
I
always
think it's
have
customary.
To open, yeah, right? That's a thing.
Growing up, we didn't really have stockings, except, no, we did, but they weren't hung on like mantelpieces or anything like that. They were just hung on the back of a chair.
Right. Did you guys watch Christmas movies this year?
We watched a bunch. Carly loves Elf. So Elf was on. We wanted to give an old movie a try, but that didn't pan out.
We watched National Lampoon.
National. We didn't watch that this year. We watched Love Actually. We watched Die
Watched that.
Hard.
Oh, we forgot to watch Die Hard. My family is in disagreement with me that it's a Christmas movie.
It's one of those arguments that just kind of get old after a while.
Christmas
Either you think it is or
adjacent.
you think it's not.
Right.
Right. Christmas adjacent is probably where
It's
it
still a
lands
good movie to
perfectly.
watch every year.
Yeah, I love it. What other?
We watched
movies?
Christmas with the Cranks, which we always enjoy.
We
and
watched
then-
Bad Moms Christmas.
Is there a Bad Moms Christmas?
It's Bad Moms 2 Christmas.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
Okay, because
Yeah.
you know what Christmas movie we love that's totally underrated is Family Man.
Nick Cage.
Great Christmas movie, makes me cry every time. Great story, funny, good for kids and adults, and it's just a really, really nice family values movie.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if we watched any other.
Jeremy Piven's funny in that movie too.
Joel, what's your favorite Christmas movie? Joel's gonna he's got a microphone now. It's on.
One of the Home Alones.
Oh, that's right. We watched Home Alone.
Home
Yes.
Alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, we put on Home Alone, the first one, and then we started watching.
Wasn't
the
it
second
Home Alone 2 where they
New York?
they axed the scene with Trump?
Well,
they edited that scene
whatever
out.
whatever streaming platform it was on, it was there. It was on there.
Stupid.
So, yeah, I think maybe they'd done that on like TNT or CBS
Just
or
his
something
presence is too offensive.
like that. Thanks, Joel.
I can't tell you. Yeah, the New York Home Alone was my favorite one.
Because of the pizza in the limo.
Yeah, it was just like what we watched as kids.
Man, I miss New York pizza.
Joel has a microphone now.
Very nostalgic.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to direct any questions towards Joel, who will remain this sort of mystic character on our show, I think would be good.
I watched American Gangster for Christmas night.
Is that a Christmas movie?
No.
Oh,
It's,
I was gonna say.
they have a
It's a great movie.
scene during Christmas
Yeah.
because it just details his whole life.
Oh, another really cute older one is While You Were Sleeping with Sandra Bullock and Bill Pullman, I think.
That's not Christmas though.
It's Christmas adjacent.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it starts on Christmas.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's really cute.
What else is Chris? Oh, The Family Stone.
Oh, wait,
has
we
been,
watch
like-
that every year. I cry every year.
I can't watch that every year just because it's one of those movies that I enjoy watching when it happens to be on. I don't know if I can go put it on every year because you see.
I force my family to watch it every
one
year. I
time
love
too
it.
many. Well, that's one of the reasons why I took a photo of Carly. I think when she was like 8 or 9 months pregnant, because the whole point of that, not the whole point of the movie, but there's that scene at the end where what's her name? Sarah Jessica Parker.
Sarah Jessica Parker
gives the photo of the pregnant mom to the whole family.
Oh man,
It's like that's what I wanted to do.
yeah.
That's what I wanted to do. Okay, moving on. What was the next thing that we were going to talk about? So we had a nice Christmas. We hope all of you had a nice Christmas.
Yes, I hope all of you had a wonderful Christmas. Was it the what
at
is
least the
journalism
majority.
anymore?
Yeah, let's talk about journalism for a little bit. And I guess we can talk about good journalism and bad journalism. So Barely Informed with Alad, which is a popular YouTube channel, and it's more cited on the right than I think anything else. But he was kicked out of Amerifest from was it Turning Point? That wasn't this last weekend? Obviously,
think
that was
it
Christmas,
was-
the weekend before.
Yes, it was on a Monday.
And he was kicked out for asking Kyle Rittenhouse. You just watched the video.
I
before
just
we got
watched
it.
the video.
Did
I had
he-
not seen it.
What did he say? He said, "Why do you support BLM?"
Yeah,
or-
he just said, "Mr. Rittenhouse, can you tell us why you support BLM?" It was a fair question,
right, because Rittenhouse had told Tucker or whoever he was on that, yeah, I support Black Lives Matter and the movement and blah
Yeah.
blah blah.
Which I think was I think that was a strategic move
Sure.
on his team's part.
Yes, and then Alad was kicked out. He was yoked up by security, his credential taken away, and summarily
And it was
kicked out.
instant, which is when Mike told me about the video, I watched it right away, and it was just instant. So Kyle's walking down this huge hallway with a team of security surrounding him, and then
fans, by the way.
And so he comes up and he's got the microphone and he just said, "Mr. Rittenhouse," he's following them, "can I ask you a question?" He says, "Why do you support BLM?" And then as Kyle is being ushered into the auditorium, 2 security guys come up to, what's his name? Elad,
yeah.
Elad, and they corner him and they just immediately take his badge away and they say, what do they say? They say, you're
now trespassing.
You're now trespassing because we're taking your press badge away, and
Yeah.
like you need to. And then another security guy came up to him and was like threatening him. You're now trespassing. He's like, dude, you just took my badge.
Right.
Give me a second to get out of here.
It wouldn't have mattered if he was if he was on the left or the right, which journalists now seem to be pretty partisan for the most part, but for someone on the right to be asking this kind of question to Rittenhouse at Amerifest, not that it's brave or anything, but is probably pretty commendable, because you see that he's somewhat of an unbiased journalist in this instance anyway. But
I want to give a little piece of history about journalism and about newspapers in America. I don't know if you knew this, but prior to the early to mid 1900s, so probably around the 1920s, prior to the 1920s, every single newspaper in America was openly partisan. Openly. And they were very, very clear and honest about which party they represented and which political candidate they represented.
Really?
Yes, this is very interesting. I want everyone to understand this because it really puts into perspective what's happening today with the so-called free press. A great book to read if you want to read more about it is called Unfreedom of the Press by Mark Levin.
Okay.
He's a grumpy dude, but he's very smart and writes great books. I don't know if he actually writes them, but his book is great. So I recommend that book. So prior to the 1920s, the free press was openly partisan. However, there was an equal number of newspapers on each side. Right. So it was a very fair representation of what was going on in the political landscape. And again, they were very open about who they supported. So you knew exactly what you were reading. You knew what you were getting yourself into. There has never been such a thing as unbiased press because we are all biased. Right. So everyone has a preference. Every single person who claims to be an unbiased journalist, they vote for a certain party and a certain candidate. They're partisan. So it was only until the 1920s that the free press was openly biased. And then this idea, this concept of unbiased journalism was born by the progressive left. And it was designed to function as propaganda.
Yeah.
That was the whole point of it. So this whole thing of unbiased press, it has progressive roots. And the whole idea was that they are trying to convince readers to think and vote a certain way by essentially lying to them and saying that they're unbiased. Right. So that's when the propaganda started to come in the 1920s. So when you hear all these journalists today, so-called journalists say, oh, we're unbiased, we're part of the free press. There was never such a thing as that before the 1920s-ish.
You hear guys like, guys like Glenn Greenwald and Matt Taibbi are on the left or somewhat progressive or liberal for the most part, but that doesn't stop them from investigating the goings on their side.
Yeah.
Which is good. So I think when you have journalists like that who don't really care to toe the line of their party or their ideology, I think that's a whole lot better than having people on CNN just being like, no, listen, we're fair and biased. Like, no, you're not.
No,
you're not. Why don't you just admit that and say that?
I want to say one more thing. And then the reason this is such a big problem, today is that 99% of mainstream media is leftist in nature. They are completely biased. They're progressive. They support progressive candidates, and that's totally fine. But they control the majority of the media, and they're claiming to be unbiased. That's the problem. The problem is not that they are supportive of Hillary Clinton and progressive policies, Bernie Sanders, AOC, whatever. That's not the problem. The problem is that they're lying to you and saying that they're unbiased, and the problem is that they make up the vast majority of the news that people consume today.
Like during the 2016 election, just mainstream media news outlets, the anchors and the guests on the show just crying when she wasn't elected. I mean, if that tells you anything, if they're going to say that they're not fair and balanced, but if they're going to say that they're not partisan, but then start crying when Hillary Clinton's not elected.
The actual tears.
Are you meant to trust these people? And you're never meant to trust these people. But just, the state of journalism today seems very weird because a lot of things aren't journalism. I don't know if there's now this just whole blanket term journalism, because you have articles like the one that we talked about, whether Elon Musk lives in this mansion or if he lives at this $50,000 home outside of wherever in Texas that he claims to be living in. Like this guy, you tell me.
Let me try. I want to pull up the thread that I sent you, Mike, because
basically this guy looks into if Elon Musk is living in this $50,000 house or if he's living in this mansion
because he's registered to vote in this $50,000 house in Austin, Texas, I believe.
I think, or maybe just outside of it. But then why is he living at his friend's, multi-million-dollar mansion? But also, what does it matter?
What does it matter? Yeah, what's the point? Who cares?
If Elon Musk is, and he's not the richest person in the world, by the way. I don't. That's just, I guess, of visible people. You have people like the Rothschilds and the Saudi Arabia royal family who are worth trillions. But
so this thread, you've heard Elon Musk talk a lot about his quote awesome $50K house on the border. But I live in Austin, and I know he's here a lot. So I made ... a lot of calls. What I found is he also lives in a colossal mansion borrowed from a friend named Kenny. This is okay. This guy, he works full time at the Wall Street Journal, and he's a reporter. And this is what he spent all day making calls about. Have you seen that meme? Where I think the meme is something like, "I am journalism," and I think it's some kind of SpongeBob meme. And it's just so this guy gets paid to do this. This pisses me off so much.
So what's the point of that article?
So the point is the whole point is that they hate Elon Musk because he's filthy rich and he built his wealth, and because he's anti-woke. Elon, he's not even conservative. No. He's just anti-woke. And if you're anti-woke, if you don't fit in with every piece of the intersectional agenda, you are public enemy number one, especially if you're straight, white, male, and rich as hell. So they just hate Elon. And so they're just trying to find a way. They're just trying to find a gotcha moment because they hate the guy. So then the second part of this thread is, here's the house Elon Musk says is his primary home. It's basically in the middle of nowhere. He's registered to vote here. Despite reports to the contrary, it's a temporary modular structure. Like, this is your job? This is what you're getting paid to do?
And my famous question is always, to what end? Like, what do they gain by this? Like,
here's where Elon Musk has actually been living in Austin. It's owned by Ken Howery. He's a longtime friend of. It's just like,
who cares?
Who cares? Who cares? They hate this guy so much because he refuses to fit into their agenda.
It's like people on the right, they laugh at articles like this, like, okay, so what? What are you trying to prove? And then people on the left are like, we don't like him anyway, so what are you trying to prove? Like, if we found out that he was living in this $50,000 house, like, so what?
Yeah.
Is he one of us now? No, he's not.
Yeah, it's just, it's really...
We're not buying Teslas.
It's pathetic. And it comes back to the question, what even is journalism anymore? This is what's considered hard-hitting journalism. This was trending. Just to give it a little more context, the reason I came across this is because it was trending on Twitter. People are actually engaging with this. They're going crazy over it because they now think that Elon Musk is some sort of liar. And it's just, it's a really sad state of affairs, honestly. I mean, journalists these days are nothing more than hitmen who have specific assignments to go after people that don't fit into the intersectional agenda. They are hitmen. That's what this is. This piece it's a hit piece. It's got nothing to do with journalism.
I tell you, one of these days we're gonna have proper mic stands that I don't have to deal with these cords.
There are many wires wrapped around my legs. No, it's fine.
We got to find a consistent kind of thing to get into. Like, we're gonna get the L microphone stands.
I love those.
What do you got to say, Joel?
2022. It's our year.
Yeah, it's next
year.
We're gonna
next
have
week.
The nicest stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna have such nice stuff. We're gonna have 3 cameras. We're gonna have the L bracket mic stands, or get better mics. We're gonna have someone else running this and 2 other people doing that, or it just might stay the 3 of us.
Maybe.
Which is nice. Hey, Joel, listen, we still haven't fixed this problem yet. I like using the camera that we're using. He's gonna hit record button twice. We're still gonna talk. We don't have to, though.
It's okay. We're still here. I'm still fired up about this.
Okay, that's cool.
Journalist.
So listen, I think that we should defund police. I think we should defund some police.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's. Were we talking about Michael Malice the other day? He thinks that.
Anarchist. Yeah.
Yeah, he thinks that all police should be just.
It's just stupid. Okay, anarchists haven't really figured it out. I've never understood that, and I made the joke before that, like, why would I ever trust an anarchist in a polo? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Just. I think he was on Rogan or someone with a polo on, but I don't think they figured it out. Like, how do you distribute justice? How are you able to bring people or hold people accountable or bring people before?
Do they have an answer to that?
I don't know. I really haven't paid attention to them long enough to see if they have answered that. But it's just like, okay, who appoints someone head of the civilian police? Okay, well then if. Anarchy just seems like mob rule. It just seems like crazy democracy, right? Like I don't understand it all that much.
Well, because I've heard him argue, I think he was on Tim Pool when he was talking about this, that any gun laws are unconstitutional. And the fact that police officers enforce them makes them an enemy of the Constitution.
Yeah, which I agree with. I don't disagree with that. I have no problem with that. It's just when you get into...
Okay, well, here's the question, though. If you do agree with that, and if you do believe that police officers are violating the Constitution by enforcing these laws, then why would you still want them to be in power?
That's a good question.
Because if they're anti-constitutional.
Well, it depends, though. It depends. A lot of states in the South have sheriffs, local police, who don't enforce those laws because they know that they're unconstitutional.
Oh,
so there are a bunch of sheriffs who are like, we're not going to enforce these mandates.
Right, interesting.
They're unconstitutional.
Yeah.
So it's dependent upon where you live, and if you want to make, choices that are close to your ideology, if anything. And if you're somewhat of like an anti-statist, then it would seem to move to a more conservative state where at least the local officials, why can't I talk today? The local officials don't enforce these kind of laws. So I think that would be a solution. But it's just like if you abolish police on the whole, what then happens? Like,
right.
How quickly do you slip into chaos? Because
right.
listen, I mean, do you get into like the East German Stasi or?
Well, you can kind of see it happen already in San Francisco. So I lived in San Francisco for about 3 years, and I made a friend at a boxing gym where I was teaching. He's a police officer in SF in the Bay Area, and he and I keep in touch. And he sent me an email with a video that he took of the Tenderloin area. Yeah. Which I used to live in Soma, which is essentially right next door to the Tenderloin. And he was just telling me that month after month after month, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse because these police officers, like, I don't even know why they have a job. They're not enforcing anything. You can now steal up to $1,000 worth of merchandise. That's why you see all these videos of people going into Walgreens, any department store.
If it's under $1,000.
If it's under $1,000, they're just putting stuff, putting merchandise into their bag or just carrying it out. There was a really funny security camera footage from SF. It was actually a little boutique shop that I've gone into a few times.
Oh, where the guy just walks in and he steals the stuff on the table.
He's like, what's up?
What's up?
And the timid little white girl behind the counter is like, hi, can I help you today?
And just walks out.
And he's like, yo, what's up? And then he's like, grabs it. He takes it, and as he's walking out, she says, excuse me. He goes, shut up, bitch.
Hey, listen, they're not going to enforce it. Listen, all the power to them, like whatever. Like,
and it just makes me laugh because
that's what they vote for.
That girl working behind the counter, she voted for criminal justice reform.
Yeah.
She believes in criminal justice reform. This is exactly what you get. So all that to say, the police they're not even really doing anything in San Francisco now. So if the police were to be eliminated, this is actually a pretty good preview of what it would look like.
This is what people vote for. So I have no sympathy for them here. No one wants to see bad police anywhere. So it's like the video that I sent to you. I forget who posted it, but of the cop not drawing his weapon on that guy. I think it was in Texas. I don't know where. I'll put a link to it in the video description. But,
I don't think I have seen that.
So there is a video of an interaction with a police officer who's interacting with this guy. He looks like an older black gentleman, or maybe like 40s maybe. But he's like, what do you got in your pocket there? And it's all on body cam. So the body cam's rolling. The guy pulls out a gun and he's holding it close to his body. He's like, you're a rookie. Your rookie ain't going to do shit. You're not going to do anything. And he keeps on saying, I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to shoot you to the cop. The cop has not pulled his gun. Doesn't even look like he's about to pull his gun, but he's like, hey, don't do that. And he's like backing up the whole time. And the guy is saying to him, I'm going to shoot you. I'm going to shoot you. And he's walking toward the cop. The cop is just backing up, hasn't drawn anything, and he ends up getting shot. I don't think he dies, but he ended up getting shot. And I'm just like, okay, that guy should never be a cop.
Okay, wait, hold on. Sorry, I don't know if you mentioned this. I didn't hear it. What are the races of these people?
I think white cop, black.
Okay, well, that's probably why. I mean,
interaction.
Sadly, a lot of because of what's been happening with BLM over the past couple of years, police officers are terrified to actually do their job when it comes to a black suspect. I agree with that. Then quit. If you're too afraid to do what needs to be done with the suspect, regardless of the suspect's race, and you need to quit your job.
Quit your job. Yeah, because I don't want a cop like that out on the street who's too timid to pull his weapon in fear of backlash over optics.
Yeah.
Because what happens if that guy gets away and goes shoot civilians?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
right.
I mean,
That's exactly right.
Don't need cops like that. Defund that cop. Take away his job. After that video's out, take away his pension. He can go find another job. I don't support that. And then the Kim Potter case.
I was just going to mention the Kim Potter case. So I'll give some context in case, because I think this is...
Well, you have a final point of that, which I think is funny.
Well, Tim Dillon said it better than I did. My friend, I wish I could just text him. I could text him, but he's we're not quite there yet in our relationship. Kim Potter is a female police officer who pulled over, I believe it was Dante Wright. Is that the name of the victim?
I don't think so. Joel, can you look that up?
Yeah. Would you fact check me?
Joel's going to look that up. Yeah, he's going to fact check. Who did Kim Potter pull over?
Because I know Dante Wright is another guy who was killed in some sort of police altercation, but I'll tell the story while he looks up the name. So Kim Potter pulled over this guy, young black guy. He was pulled over for a traffic violation. And
it
then
was found out he had a warrant.
Found out that there was a warrant out for his arrest.
For a weapons charge, I think.
Right, yeah. So he had and I'm quite certain it was a violent record he has.
That his background, I'm not too sure about. All that I know,
but he
is
has a
from what I've read.
background.
Sure.
So there's a warrant out for his arrest. So they were arresting him, and he was resisting arrest. And there's footage of him resisting, and then
trying
Kim
to get
Potter
back in his car,
trying to get back into his car to flee the scene. Kim Potter said, "I'm going to tase you. I'm grabbing a taser. I'm going to tase you. I'm going to tase you."
and then she says, "Taser, taser, taser,
Taser, taser, taser.
But she pulled her gun out.
She pulled her gun out and shot the guy, and then I think he was rushed to the hospital, and he died from the injuries.
Joel, what was his name?
His name was Dante Wright.
Yes.
Oh,
Okay. So you.
yes.
Okay.
So I was right.
Accurate.
So there's
you sent it to me.
there's a lot of things to unpack with this case, but I mean, we're not going to do all of it. But I want to say, first of all,
Yeah.
let's just go straight to the point that I wanted to talk about. So Tim Dillon tweeted right after this whole happened, and it went viral. And of course, BLM and everyone wanted to make it some sort of race thing, and nothing to do with race. And then, but another annoying thing, that I found this to be annoying by conservatives is that they were just automatically jumping to the fact that he has a criminal record. And so they were using that. So first of all, I disagree with people when they talk about that. His criminal record, it actually has nothing to do with whether it was okay that Kim Potter shot him.
Sure. The only time I think a criminal record matters is when it comes to sentencing.
And when it comes to martyring people, that's when it matters. So that's
right.
why we talk about George Floyd's criminal record, not because he deserved to die in that instance, but because he was being martyred, and because there are statues of him, and there's eventually going to be a George Floyd holiday. I mean, we know that.
I don't think so.
And well, they're going to try anyway. And so that's when the criminal record comes into play, when they were trying to martyr the person.
Right.
Now, when it comes to the actual incident that happened, no, it's not okay that Kim Potter shot him because he's a violent criminal. Like, he deserves due process,
right,
just like anyone else does. But so anyways, they were trying to make a big stink about it being race, but then in the midst of all of it, Tim Dillon tweets, "Women cops working out great."
Yeah, when it's just incompetence. And I'm not saying that women cops are just purely.
Well, I want to talk about
incompetent.
that. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about this concept of, should women be police officers? Now, there are always exceptions to the rule. My cousin, he's a police officer in Bakersfield, and he says he has worked with female police officers before that have been very competent and great at their job.
Sure, but that's anecdotal, and obviously,
but it's anecdotal,
yeah.
and there are always exceptions to the rule. Exceptions to the rule don't disprove the rule; they
Right.
actually prove the rule. I mean, there are exceptions, right? These are minorities, and so when we're talking about women as police officers, one thing that we know about women versus men, and Jordan Peterson talks about this a lot, is that men are simply better working with inanimate objects, with tools,
Sure.
with weapons.
Sure.
Men are more psychologically wired to work with inanimate objects than women are, which is another reason why there are so many more male engineers and software engineers than there are women, right? Because we are much more personable, we have a higher emotional IQ, et cetera, et cetera. So when we're talking about in the heat of a moment, we're talking about high adrenaline situations, we're talking about stressful moments. Well, it's also not forget that biologically, in a moment like that, a female will physically feel threatened by a male in a way that male to male will never really experience.
Okay.
So there is something biologically happening in Kim Potter that really, really scares her and freaks her out, because even if Dante Wright wasn't a big guy, he's thrashing around in the car.
Yeah.
There's a threat of violence, an imminent threat of violence, and biologically, women we're more scared of that from a man than a man would be from a man, right? So then you have all this put together, and then she reaches for her taser, and she pulls out her gun.
Yeah.
I mean, these are all of these pieces. It really forces you to ask the question: should women be police officers?
Well, to me, there are a couple things here. It just seems to me like inadequate training, just because dealing with anything with weapons, everything becomes muscle memory. So she probably, went through the training where she got tased herself so she could see how it feels like. Who knows how much work she did with an actual taser, because the taser's on her weak side, so her gun's on her strong side. So in that sort of situation, she's probably thinking, she probably just hasn't done training with a taser. Like, cops, I don't want to speak for all of them, but it's pretty well known that cops aren't doing too much weapons training, especially like beat cops or cops who are in a car,
Right.
like SWAT guys, emergency services units, like those guys, that's all they do is training for the most part. But regular cops, they're not shooting all that much. They're not really doing any sort of weapons training or anything like that. So it doesn't seem, out of left field that she would fuck that up. But do I think that women shouldn't be cops?
Another reason is because women
interrupt you while you're talking.
That
all the
too.
time.
Yeah, that too. Women also just do not deal with stress and adrenaline as well as men do. They just don't. There's so much research showing that we do not handle stressful situations as well as men do.
Depending on who is in those situations.
What do you mean?
Women dealing with stressful situations, I'm sure that has to do with a lot of who they're dealing with. If they're dealing with violent men, probably can't deal with stress all that well. If they're dealing with small children or something like that, then it's probably different.
Right.
But I don't know. Every sort of police interaction that I've watched, because I watch all these, not sovereign citizen videos on YouTube, but it's like this guy's pulling me over, or I'm getting thrown out of a parking lot by police because I'm not violating any First Amendment, or they're violating my First Amendment, so they're illegally throwing me out of like the police parking lot. There are a lot of these First Amendment auditors who go to public spaces and film just to see if they're going to get thrown out and get their First Amendment violated. But every interaction where I see women who are cops, there's always like this little edge on them that doesn't look safe. Like just they always seem more nervous than the guys do.
Yes. Yeah.
So I mean, when it comes to life and death situations like that, it's probably not a good characteristic.
Now, I'm not saying that we should immediately ban women from becoming police officers or ban women from the military, but I do think that it's safe to say that very few women are cut out for jobs like that. And when we talk about having a strong police force or having a strong military, do you know who Jesse Kelly is?
No.
Jesse Kelly, I think he's still in DC. He has a radio show or something, but he goes on Tucker regularly, and he's an ex-Marine. Well, I think that's politically incorrect to say. I think that once a Marine, always a Marine. But anyway,
not active.
He's a non-active
former Marine.
Former
I guess
Marine.
You could say former Marine. Yeah.
Anyway, so he went on he went on Tucker recently, and there's this great clip of him talking about, he's like, we do not need effeminate men and women in our military. He says, I want to see alpha male men leading our military who want to sit on a throne of Chinese skulls.
Yeah, Giga Chads.
I want a military of Giga Chads.
Yeah.
I really do, because at the end of the day, I do not want gay dudes and women fighting to protect my country and my family. I want alpha.
So triggering.
I want alpha males, just like Jesse Kelly said, who want to sit on a throne of Chinese skulls. And those are the kinds of police officers I want in the streets too.
Another discussion: can gay guys be alpha?
That is actually a good question. It's a good question. You know who would be great for this conversation?
Yeah. No one knows who he is, though.
Yeah, but
even if you looked him up, you wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know. That's why he's so great, because you're not going to find a trace of him on the internet.
God, yeah, that'd be so great.
But he named
would have
the
an
show.
answer for that.
He named the show because I'll kind of give some background. A celibate Christian gay man who has thought very, very deeply
about.
Would
he like you giving this information out about him?
Oh, I mean, nobody knows who he is. And he talks about it openly.
Yeah, to you.
No, but he'll talk about it to anyone. The second day I met him, I asked him all these questions.
All right, you can talk about it.
Anyway, he would have very good thoughts about this question. Can gay men be alphas?
Right. No, I think so too. And I think if we ever have him on the show, that we should definitely ask him that. I would assume that a lot of people watching the show would probably agree with you. I don't know. I don't
even care if they do, because I believe it so strongly that I really just.
Oh, no. I'm not saying that you would care. I'm just saying that that's a pretty good question to ask, and
it is. It's a good thing to discuss. Just like the topic of should women have the right to vote. That's a good discussion, because last time we kind of mentioned how after women were given the right to vote, society started to decline in many ways.
Yeah, I don't think there's been any civilization before us that had, other than maybe the Spartans, but I don't think even they had women in the military. We just know that those women were like alpha women who ran the families and who, oh God, what is it that say that they say that giving birth is akin to being in battle or something like that. I don't remember what it was, but looking up like the history of Spartan women is pretty interesting.
Huh.
Yeah. I think they had a very elevated place in their society, but also they weren't, I think they were probably not physically, but just they had to be as tough as men. I can't remember. This might just be me babbling and talking nonsense, but I know that Spartan women had like a pretty high place in society.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah. I got to find that. Maybe someone can find that. People are probably watching this and be like, what the fuck is he talking about?
They're probably Googling it right now because it sounds interesting.
Joel, Google Spartan women. Can you do that?
Lena Headey.
Yeah, she was good in that. She had long hair.
She was pre-Cersei.
I think you saw a boob or two, too.
I was actually just thinking how you saw her tits in that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Joel's
God,
like nodding over there.
Can I just say, like, this show is for adults, okay? I'm sorry.
But I do understand that there are a lot of parents out there who want their teenagers to be able to listen to shows like this because there aren't really many options when it comes to conservative-ish podcasts.
Listen, you're the parents, okay? Expose your kids to what you want to expose your kids to. You know the subject and content matter of this show. If you want your kids to listen to it, allow them to listen to it. If you don't want them to, there's the door. Have fun. Go watch a movie. Mommy and daddy are going to listen to some stuff. We're going to watch this podcast. So, yes, I get that.
Yeah.
I do understand.
Yeah.
But also...
I'm trying not to curse.
I know, but I
haven't dropped an F-bomb yet.
If I want to talk about, boobies from 300, I think we should be able to do that.
70% of that movie was a
Spartan
slow-mo.
women. Go ahead.
Yeah, let's hear the history of Spartan women.
Oh, I was just looking up pictures.
Oh, no, there's something about... That's what he does. Jamie, pull that shit up. Oh. You wanted me to actually look into it?
Wait, did you want me to look at a
He's just
picture of
looking at
Lena Headey?
Can you look at... Actually, we'll just do this, and while you're doing that, we can talk about something else. But can you just pull up Spartan women in Spartan society? Can you just do that? Or importance of Spartan women? I think is something that I was just interested in. Yeah. Do I think women should be cops? No. I view that women cops are kind of like British cops. Like, you're not doing anything to me. I'm running away from you.
Yeah.
I did read in that her taser and weapon had never been deployed in her 26 years of service.
Oh, really?
On duty.
Well, yeah, on duty. And here's the thing. She's probably not training. She's probably not training all that much.
No,
Right.
yeah.
26 years never pulling either your firearm or your taser.
That's what I'm saying.
It
In the
seems
heat
very
of something
accidental.
like that, she's not going to her weak side and pulling it.
Yeah.
She's not going to do that.
Women cops working out great.
I mean,
It's unfortunate. Look, and it's unfortunate. I'm going against a lot of what conservatives say, but I do believe it is unfortunate that Dante Wright died. Now, yes, he was resisting arrest, and he should not have been resisting arrest. If you ever resist arrest from the police officers, you should know that you're putting yourself in a dangerous situation where you very well could get hurt or end up dead. But I still think it is very unfortunate, regardless of his criminal record. I think it's unfortunate that he was shot and he died at the error of a police officer.
Here's the thing. If you are engaging in criminal activity and have engaged in criminal activity before and you're currently doing it, your clock is ticking. So it's just a matter of time until all that stuff is going to catch up to you. So, I mean...
So don't
People are
commit
gonna do what
crimes
they
and don't resist arrest.
Bearing and raising children was considered the most important role for women in Spartan society, equal to male warriors in the Spartan army. Spartan women were encouraged to produce many children, preferably male, to increase Sparta's military population. They took pride in having born and raised brave warriors. And I think if Spartan women died during childbirth, they were given a warrior's death, a warrior's burial.
See, this is, I actually agree with this 100%. And this is where the whole second wave of feminism just really pisses me off.
The greatest honor was to die during childbirth.
See, giving birth to children and raising children is just as important as being a warrior, just like the Spartans believe, but just as important as being a provider and a protector as a male in society. It's just as important. And so I honestly think they're onto something. That's why I think the second wave feminism, you guys ruined it for us. You ruined it.
Well, there's nothing more that I like than women's with guns. And I'm not talking about like gun bunnies, but I'm talking about women who actually train with guns. And that's always like a marker of strength to me that I see that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually would like to go shooting. I haven't gone since I was 18.
Isn't that like a cool, strong family? You see a woman who is in charge of her household, competent, good with weapons, and who isn't necessarily overbearing or annoying.
And she can cook.
That's I think the ideal role, and I think what we're going to talk about next will kind of maybe help you guys understand who we are. So a quick break in a second, and then we're going to come back and talk about this because this is really interesting. So Joel, want you do that, buddy?
Why don't you go do that? I know what you're talking about. What we're going to talk about next.
Yeah. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Are we going? We're going. So what I wanted to talk about was a question that I think we should probably answer for people is where do we fall on the spectrum of conservatism? And I'll do this first while you're drinking. And I think, well, let's define the spectrum. Let's go from this side, what the audience would view that as, I guess, the right. The way I thought of it was like Ted Cruz, Madison Cawthorn on one end of the spectrum. And then on the other end of the spectrum, John Doyle and Nick Fuentes.
This is the conservative
right?
spectrum.
Like John Doyle, Nick Fuentes, right?
I think it says a lot about me that I love John Doyle
No,
and
me
Nick
too.
Fuentes.
That's what I'm saying. So, okay, so you go from like the Fox News, thin blue line.
The what's the word I'm looking for? Not traditional, but I guess like the traditional conservative. There's a word.
Republicans.
Yeah.
Conservative Republicans are on one end of the spectrum. And then you have the kind of
like the Rand Paul.
Posting. No, Rand Paul's he's
You're right,
towards
he's
the middle
more,
of that.
You're right, because he's a bit more libertarian.
Not even, because I don't really care for libertarians.
He was named after Ayn Rand.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah.
Okay, well that makes sense. But I mean, I get Rand Paul, I get Ron Paul and how they were libertarian, but I think Rand Paul has maybe evolved a little bit in the last couple of years.
Right.
Anyway, I mean, they're just non-authoritarian and small government. That's the one thing is, I don't like when people say no government, abolish the government. I'm like, nah, I'm small government. Super small local government.
Yes.
Federal government bad, small local government good.
Yes.
But I think John Doyle would be like trad kid, trad conservative, trad, Catholic kid, for the most part. And then you have Nick. But the thing with those guys that I don't necessarily identify with is everything has to be traditional with these guys. Women don't vote, don't drive. Don't drive, I agree with. But women, don't vote. They should have their place in society. I don't dictate where people's places are. I don't really care for that. So, which is why I identify personally as a conservative hippie.
Yeah, I don't even know where I fall. I mean, sometimes I think I'm more of a conservative populist. But and I'll tell you why. As the days go on, and as I get older and older, I agree more with the John Doyle crowd. And not necessarily that women should not be allowed to work or should be allowed to vote.
You probably just don't think it's in their best interest.
I just don't think it's in their best interest. I really, truly, genuinely believe that if more women, not necessarily all, I do believe that there are exceptions to this. I was actually talking about this with Candace the other day. There are exceptions. Women who can be moms and they still perform very well in the workforce. They rise the corporate ladder. They, whatever, they go that route and they're really good at it. But I think most women, 9 out of 10 women, would be much happier if we would get married, have babies, raise kids, nurture the home, because I mean, it's really traditionally the man is supposed to lead the home. But I think that more women would be so much happier if we took that route. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't work or we shouldn't go to school or shouldn't be educated or shouldn't have a place in society. But I think that for the most part, women will just be much happier. Because if you look at because you can measure rates of happiness. If you look at the rates of depression, anxiety, rates of happiness, depression, anxiety has gone up every single year since the second wave of feminism. Right? Since women believed that the patriarchy needed to be torn down, that women need to replace men in the boardroom, etc. And rates of happiness have gone down as women have been married less and been having fewer kids.
What is something that if you hear a conservative talking about or promoting that makes you say, no, that's not what it's about. I can't identify with you on that. I kind of don't want you in this tent because I hate when people are like, big tent, we got to have as many different people.
Yeah.
I don't like that. So the one example for me is the back the blue, thin blue line thing. I think in the past couple of years, I've noticed that I don't necessarily care about supporting police. All I want are good, competent police. And I think a lot of that has stemmed from my history of growing up on Long Island, and everybody knows cops there, so many cops and families and stuff like that. But, it's one of the highest paid police forces in the country, even today, especially when I was growing up. But every interaction I had with them, they just came off as just super mean, didn't have time for you. And I mean, Nassau County was like one of the most peaceful places in the country for the most part, especially in the wealthier areas. But I'm just like super entitled, and every interaction I had was just bad. It wasn't until I've been in Texas and moved down south where police were actually just kind of nice.
Yeah.
Just kind of did their jobs, but we're still not even friendly or personable, but just they did their job without an air of arrogance to them. And I think that's kind of the thing for me. I support police when they do good jobs. I don't support them when they do bad jobs, and I don't support them when they try to enforce unconstitutional laws. So just this blind sort of, we support, like anytime anyone talks about police at a conservative or Republican rally or speech, and just this blind allegiance to police, it kind of makes me cringe a little bit. I've never really felt that way.
I agree with you. I think it's because they are just trying their best to just go against the woke left culture in any way they can, right? And so then that just becomes a blanket back the blue.
Yeah.
And especially when you see police officers now actually enforcing mask mandates, arresting people in a Chili's or TGI Fridays, I forgot where it was in Queens, arresting people for going in there without having a vaccine passport.
But they're just doing it politely.
Yeah,
they didn't go there by themselves. They were called by someone in there, so they showed up to this call. They were just doing it politely. That's what people tell me. They're just doing it politely.
Yeah, and that's what really pisses me off. I'm like, if you think that that's okay, I watched the video.
Yeah,
those cops, there was 6,
there
8
were a lot
of them.
Of them.
There
yeah.
was a whole group of them
for a kid
to arrest. They were peaceful.
Yeah.
They were just sitting in there without a vaccine passport. And the fact that all of these jerks went in there to do their job. I mean, you look at the smug look on their faces.
Yeah, it's not even that, but
I'm supposed to back the blue after seeing that?
The restaurants have it hard because they get fined. Don't pay the fines.
Don't pay the fines.
Don't pay. Well, how can you say you don't own the restaurant? Families have suffered.
Look at what Ian Smith has been doing in New Jersey.
Well, that's one of the things that I was thinking of. But I'm just saying, I'm saying just because you think that they're doing a good job and following the law means that that's what they're doing.
Yeah, no.
I'm just saying, like, that doesn't make any sense to me. If a cop is doing something that is, because they swear oaths to the Constitution,
right,
and kicking people out of a restaurant based on unconstitutional mandates or laws, because a mandate does stem from a law. I recently did some research into looking up differences between mandates and laws, and I think all mandates is they're non-voted for. So mandates come from people who have been given power. Like the governor can issue a mandate because the state Congress or the state Senate has given the governor powers to do so. So It's not, so when you're making a law, obviously they have to get voted by the body and by the Senate, and then a law becomes a law. But I think a mandate is just, if they give the governor power to do so, it does that make it constitutional? Does a mask mandate constitutional? No. Discriminating on people based on medical history or medical identification card seems unconstitutional to me. So by cops enforcing that, seems like they're violating their sworn oath to the Constitution. So fuck them.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do get a little bit with the whole back the blue.
So what's one thing for you that kind of makes you go ugh?
This is really gonna piss off a lot of people, but I gotta be honest.
Welcome to our last episode.
I'm going to try to approach this delicately. I really don't like it when I hear so-called conservatives support the legalization of gay marriage because of the live and let live ethos.
Okay. Expand on that.
Yeah. So I believe that gay marriage is not good. Legalizing gay marriage is not good for society. I believe that. And I believe very much in the power of the nuclear family. I believe that kids need a mother and a father. I believe that having the nuclear family as a home, statistically, the data shows that it produces the healthiest, happiest, and most successful children. And I think that when you also look at why marriage became something that the government legalized, it was because the government was incentivizing people to have a nuclear family and to raise children with a mother and a father, right? That is the whole purpose of legalizing marriage in the first place, right? So there's also an argument, Ben Shapiro, for example, he says that the government shouldn't even be involved in marriage at all.
Right.
It shouldn't even be involved in it. I actually disagree with that. I do think that because why? Humans run on incentives. And I think that if the government offers tax breaks and incentives to get married and to have children, those are very, very objectively good things for society. And I believe that needs to be preserved. I'm very traditional in that sense. Now, this is not a religious argument to say that being gay is a sin. That's nothing to do with this. So I don't want anyone to listen to this and come up with a stupid low IQ straw man argument to say that I'm against gay people. No, I don't care if you're gay. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. Okay. What does affect society is completely restructuring and changing what legal marriage is, what marriage is, and what its good is for society. Right. That's what I have a problem with. I believe now it's a different argument. If you want to get into a conversation of whether gay couples should be allowed to adopt kids, I mean, I'll have that conversation. You know, I'm not saying that
are they entitled to visit, well, quote unquote, spouses in the hospital or something like that, right? Like,
right, something like that.
Yeah,
or like, I forgot what the term is.
Those rules are kind of weird. It seems kind of arbitrary. Like, if I've been with someone for 15 years, I should probably be allowed to sit with them while they're sick.
Yeah, or you should be allowed to like say whether the plug can be pulled or something. I don't know the
right.
What, yeah.
Well, that's power of attorney too. In that
but
instance.
I firmly I will stand firm on this, and I will die on this hill, as they say. I will die on this hill. I do think that marriage, the institution of marriage, should be preserved. I'm telling you guys, and I will give you a list of books. A great place to start is The Case for Marriage. Marriage between a man and a woman is the best thing for society, best thing for families, and best thing for society. And I think that and you can already see when you legalize gay marriage and when you invite that into society and make it normalized and okay, things will start to break down.
Mm-hmm. Well, I see that's the hippie part of me as far as conservative, because, you know, you talk about, you know, small and local government and government not being involved in your personal life. So part of me is saying, no, I don't care. You know, let people do what they want to do if they're consent. And this obviously goes back to the porn discussion that we had. But consenting adults should be able to do whatever they want without the federal government in their business and interfering. But at the same time, I do recognize that traditional marriage between men and women is very beneficial for society and especially for kids. So I get that point. So I think my whole political philosophy is that I'm torn on a lot of things all the time, but I still tend to side with conservatives for the most part.
Right.
And that's that kind of hippie, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Whether it's taxes, whether it's foreign policy, whether it is on 2A, whether it's the whole First Amendment and on abortion and stuff like that. So that's why I call myself a conservative hippie.
Right.
But I don't ever find myself siding with anything left. I found there's really not.
I used to side with criminal justice reform, but I've really changed that over the past few years.
Well, that's the thing. I remember I said, well, it depends what's being reformed and, you know, who's being reformed in a way. I don't think violent criminals, there should be any sort of reformation for them. I think they should be punished and cast out of society.
Yes. Yeah.
But for people who have maybe made some not sketchy, but just maybe bad decisions when it comes to finance and kind of screwing other people, that's where that scale depends on, you know, like how much. If it's a guy who wrote, you know, one bad check or something because his family was struggling, he's like, I just need to write this one bad check. Do your time.
Yeah.
But maybe, if you show good behavior, your sentence can be reduced a little bit. I don't think releasing you back into society is going to be a whole net negative for society. But, you know, having someone who was charged with a violent crime and then giving them $1,000 bond where they are free to just basically exist before their trial, where the chances of them, you know, doing something violent again is probably pretty high. It's probably not a good idea.
Right. Another thing that I don't like hearing is so-called conservatives who are against the death penalty because they use the argument of, well,
if you're pro-life,
we can't. Yeah, that's a stupid argument too. But we can't play God and take the life of people. Yes, we can, because there are heinous crimes that the death penalty exists to deter people from committing these heinous crimes.
Well, live executions would also deter people.
Yes, they would.
I think a better way. But
also corporal punishment.
Yeah, but here's the thing on that. And I think a lot of the people who are on death row, and not accidentally, just because of bad evidence, I think those cases are super rare, but also super horrible when that happens, you know, when you have innocent people on death row.
Rare but horrible.
Right. But yeah, I do, listen, you can't kill a kid in the womb because it is of an inconvenience to you. That I still find that is murder. In the same way that you can't go up to someone, rob them, shoot them in the head. You do not get a chance to exist in society with people who follow the rule of law and who have compassion to other people. You've lost that chance, therefore you don't get to live in the society anymore.
Right, you've lost a chance to live in
You
civilized
are an
society.
adult. Kids don't have any chance, especially babies in the womb. They don't have any chances to defend themselves.
Innocent.
Okay, you're 19 years old. You want to rob a store and you want to shoot the clerk. You've made that decision.
Right.
I'm sorry, but you don't get
Right.
to live in society with people
Yeah.
who are just trying to live their lives.
So yeah, I don't know where I would fall on the spectrum. I don't know.
I struggled with that question too. Like, can I
Yeah.
be pro-life and then also support corporal punishment and the death penalty?
Yeah, I mean, I used to be anti-death penalty, but
The logic of it now is just basically you have people who are able to make choices for themselves. You make the wrong choice, you pay the highest price.
And the death penalty, it should exist to, like I said, deter people from very heinous crimes. Child rape,
yeah.
you deserve to die. You deserve to die. Serial
God.
killers, you deserve to die.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
and it's funny because I was
You
kind
cook
of
chicken raw. You deserve to die.
overcooked fish,
Overcooked fish.
jail.
Did you get a sweater? And the sweater not... What does he say about the sweater?
Oh, the sweater one. What was that one?
Did you wear a sweater and the sweater don't fit? It's too big?
You go to jail.
Maybe. I don't know.
Jail right away.
We try to sort of bring the discussion from here, smooth it out with a bit of humor.
Right to jail.
Right to jail.
You overcook fish, jail. You undercook fish, jail.
Yeah, that's right. Did you undercook chicken? Jail. I love that. That's really funny.
So yeah, I don't know. All that say, I don't know where I fall on the spectrum. I guess I'm trad.
I would say you're pretty trad.
I don't know. Yeah.
Like, you and John Doyle probably have a lot in common.
But I think that Nick Fuentes, if I am recalling correctly, I think he does believe that women generally are not as smart as men.
Yeah, and I mean, I also think I remember him saying, I think he
But go ahead.
this is no. I think I was in the middle of cutting you off, right? Like you said something, and then I was saying, "Oh, I remember," and then you cut me off. So I mean, who's right?
I'm
What
always
were we
right.
gonna say?
Okay, so I think this is interesting. The bell curve of IQ, right? So on average, more women.
They have higher IQs.
It's not exactly that. So on average, the sort of, let's see if I can explain this correctly. The average range of IQ, more women sit in that range.
Okay.
Right. So on average, men actually, if we're talking about like just the average population, men sit a bit lower on the IQ level.
Right.
But on the extremes, there
is it
are
more men?
way more
Okay.
men that have very, very high IQs
Right.
and more men that have very, very low IQs.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting. So
Well-
it's too difficult to say. And also IQ is not a good indicator of intelligence.
No.
And it's definitely not a good indicator of how well you're going to perform in life.
It's a good indicator of autism.
It is a good
Had a high
indicator
IQ,
of autism.
you're probably autistic.
Yeah.
No, but I remember Nick Fuentes was talking about how he actually was. This is totally paraphrasing, and who knows if he was being provocative or not, or trying to be funny. But he was saying that he's like, hey, the Taliban does a pretty good job of the women in their society.
Yeah.
They don't drive. They kind of submit to their husbands and stuff like that. That's the kind of society I would want.
Yeah.
To kind of model our society off of as far as women in the society. And I think that's completely. He might be joking, but he might not be serious.
I
So
think
that's where
he's a little both.
yeah.
Kind of joking, but also like
Shouldn't drive.
kind of serious.
This is a problem though for our viewers, because I looked at the analytics and 80% of our viewers are women. So when I say don't drive, I mean it.
I tweeted once that women can't parallel park, and I had hundreds of women saying, "But I can parallel park."
Yeah, hundreds out of millions.
Yeah.
And you're probably lying.
Oh, one thing. Speaking of Nick Fuentes,
How are we doing on time?
and things
No, fine.
that conservatives do that make me cringe. There was a clip that we've talked about. I think we've talked about it. A clip that he was on Elijah's show.
Yeah.
And Sydney was asking him,
Well,
and
are you dating anybody? Do you love your mom?
have
What's
you
the
ever
relationship?
dated? Have you ever dated a woman before?
Yeah.
Right. So first of all, more context. This clip was going viral amongst conservatives because they genuinely believed it was a gotcha moment, and Nick Fuentes got owned.
Sure.
He got owned by Sydney because she was asking this question. So she asked, "Have you ever been in a relationship with a woman?" And he said no. And so she said, "Well, then how can you manage to have so many opinions about women, and how can you?"
Because I exist and can do so. I mean, that's the thing. It's
I
like-
thought it was so stupid. I couldn't believe I was seeing all these conservatives being like, "Oh yeah, she really got him. He's such an idiot." why does Nick Fuentes have to have had a previous girlfriend to have informed opinions about women and men?
Why does anybody?
Why does anybody? Like, why? Because he's single? Why? Because he's a virgin? I don't know if he's a virgin, but let's just say he's a single virgin who's never had a girlfriend, so he can't have any opinions about women and men?
Well,
Like,
John Doyle answered this the best. What he was on the same show, but there was another person on the show who I guess was an older woman, not an older, but maybe in her 30s. But she was saying, well, you're not married, and do you have a girlfriend? And he was like, no. She was like, okay, well, she says, listen, I'm such and such age. I have 2 kids. Like, what do you have? And he's like, I'm 21 and equally successful. And it like kind of like shut that conversation down. I got to find that clip and send it to you because he's right. Like, he's like, what do my dating requirements or the fact that I have kids or not have to do with my opinions?
I agree with that 100%. And people were sharing this video. And then what Nick Fuentes said, he said, well, I'm having an interaction with a woman now.
Right.
And I think he's right. You don't have to be in a relationship with women to interact with women enough to know how women are generally, to have opinions about women and men.
That's the problem with our culture right now as it exists when people are having conversations, that if one person doesn't have the necessary qualifications to talk about a certain topic, then that person shouldn't be believed or have any sort of credibility when it comes to the content of what he's saying. So just because I'm not a practicing mechanic doesn't mean I can't talk to you about cars.
Right.
Just because I am unable to birth a child yet doesn't mean that I shouldn't have an opinion about birthing a child. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly.
I'm not gonna, I'm a photographer by trade. I'm not gonna shut down someone by saying, hey, listen, are you a professional photographer? You can't talk about photography.
It's just the argument from authority thing.
Well, it's one of these things that people do that I think make them feel like they've won an argument and to shut down people quickly, because they probably know that it's probably going to head down a wrong road if they allow that person to talk too much, because it's just going to be humiliating in the end.
But one thing that Nick Fuentes says that I haven't even heard why he believes this, and I would like to hear why. He's against interracial marriages, and I would like to know. I want to hear his reasoning before I
well, you know what would be great if you had Nick Fuentes and Killer Mike on the same show and talking about that, because Killer Mike's against interracial marriages as well.
Oh, is he? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, see, these are the kinds of things that I think I would want to have a conversation about it.
I mean,
which is tough for me because I guess I'm technically in an interracial marriage.
A lot of people traditionally, and you talk to, people our parents' age, our grandparents' age, they're traditionally against those because they believe that, listen, you have more in common. And it's not even races, but I think it's, cultures, ethnicities. You know what I'm saying? So 2 Salvadorians would have more in common than a Salvadorian and an Eastern European, second generation Eastern European, like my dad. Does that mean that they can't have a relationship or they can't, fall in love? No, it doesn't mean that. But it probably means that it would
be harder.
Yeah, probably be harder. And if they did have more in common, it would be maybe an easier relationship. Also, it might not. So I think it's interesting to have those conversations, and there's talk about culture, and then there's talk about the actual family. So I think it would be really interesting to see a conversation between Nick Fuentes and Killer Mike about that, because they both agree, but I think from different perspectives.
They arrive at the same point, but they take a different path to arrive
yeah,
there.
because I think, what does Killer Mike say that, I think he talks about like black men marrying non-black women. He talks about that being a negative, and I think vice versa. But now you see an erasure of that, because it's definitely politically incorrect to say that interracial marriages probably aren't beneficial or aren't a good thing. But now in every commercial that you see is an interracial marriage. Mm-hmm. Like, I counted the number of interracial couples in like Huggies commercials and soup commercials, and they're every one of them. So I just don't know if that's like subliminal messaging from corporations or from marketing companies, why they're doing that. Like, I don't ever see a traditional family as far as like all Asians, all white people, all black people.
Yeah. Like
it's very weird. Yeah.
The Target commercials are a good example. I was watching
the car commercials too.
Yeah, the car commercials. Yeah, because those used to be very family oriented commercials. I mean, they still are, but traditionally.
Sure.
Yeah. Like, and then you just RAP the white couples in all commercials.
It's just interesting. Like I said, love whoever you want. You have a strong relationship and you find somebody. It doesn't really matter what race or ethnicity they are. But it seems like, I don't know, are things better when couples are of the same ethnicity or of the same race? I don't know. And race is a whole weird thing to talk about too.
It is different
Isn't it?
because so here's an example. I'm half Korean.
You're half Korean,
Half
but hold
Italian.
on, because he's going to hit the record button twice,
Okay.
and then we're going to keep on talking, and only for about another 15 minutes because we don't
Okay.
want it to run long.
Yeah.
But
Because I have to pump soon.
go ahead.
I'm half Korean and half Italian. My husband is half Japanese, half Italian. So racially, we're very, very similar, but he's born and raised in Brazil.
Yeah.
So he's culturally Brazilian. So culturally, we're different in many ways.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah. So both of our dads are Italian. Well, his dad passed a few years ago, sadly, but his dad was Italian. My dad is Italian. And then our moms are Asian. My mom's Korean. His mom is Japanese.
Okay. So not if you were combined.
So combined. So
Yeah,
our
I-
daughter is half Italian, half Asian.
Right. Right.
Which is-
But Koreans and Japanese
Right.
who didn't get along all that
No,
well
they
up
didn't.
until
There's
recently. They probably still don't.
There's a phrase in
Well, that's the thing.
Korean.
Well, that's the thing. In those countries, Japan, there's probably very little interracial marriage just
Like
because there's no
none.
immigration. Immigration's pretty strict in Japan.
I want to talk about that in the next episode.
Korea, China, there's not a lot of
Yeah.
diversity
No.
amongst ethnicities.
No, there is not.
So I wonder if that is a topic of taboo in somewhere like Japan, talking about interracial marriages.
Also somewhere like Sweden, Denmark, Norway, all of these countries that leftists like AOC and Bernie Sanders like to point to as a shining example. These are all white countries. Interracial marriage is not a thing in these places because they're just all white.
For the most part, right? Like,
yeah, and they're all Norwegian, like they're all from the same blood.
right.
So it's like, so I think there's this great clip of Gavin McInnes.
Yeah, with the woman talking
with the
about
woman. I
Can
love
you point
that clip.
can you point to a country that is better than the United States? And she's like, yeah, well, the Nordic countries. And
He
he
says-
says, oh, so all
white.
white.
All white.
And she's silent. And then she's like, yeah, I guess you could say that.
Yeah, she was just
Gotcha.
She
That
was
was a big
devoed.
gotcha.
She was totally devoed because he got her.
You know what Joel asked me before? Joel, why don't you ask me the question that you asked me right before we started taping? How do you feel about this? And then we'll end on that. Remember we were talking about the weather?
How do you feel about climate change and global warming?
Yeah. So that was the thing. I guess that
You're
that-
way more educated on this than I am.
and not even necessarily way more, but I've read a little bit about it. And what I was telling Joel is I think people are putting too much of a focus on the economics behind it, and they're not talking about the science behind it. And when they are, they're just completely exaggerating it. But there's not enough emphasis on pollution and cleaning up oceans. Like, that's where I really want people to talk about cleaning up oceans, because like I was saying to him, I was like, people talk about Greta Thunberg all the time, but they don't talk about Boyan Slot, who's a young adult who built a ship to purposefully clean up the ocean. Because I mean, there's so much pollution, there's so much plastic in the ocean that's not good. And people don't talk enough about that. They want to talk about, mining for more materials to make electric cars and to have more alternative energy like wind and solar, when no one ever talks about nuclear. And I think that science has been completely exaggerated, because the IPCC report that came out in 2014, which was a UN report, that was the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. What they did was they had this huge white paper that asked pretty much two questions. No, I'm mixing up my studies. But in the white paper, they said, they basically answered the question, is man-made global warming causing climate change to a degree where we really have to be concerned about it? And the white paper pretty much ended up saying maybe it's inconclusive. We don't know yet. Projections and what do they call it? When you do something on the computer to project something, what's the word I'm looking for? Not trials, but anyway.
Presentations?
No.
Keynotes?
No. It's just basically I'm running a model. Projections and models haven't
Okay.
worked out yet. They haven't been accurate. But that's the white paper. So the white paper and scientific studies are the science. But then there was a letter that preceded the white paper, which was a letter to policymakers that was basically propaganda saying global warming is doing this, global warming is doing that, we must act on it. And there's this great book that I read that was put out that was the NIPCC, which was the NGIPCC, the non-governmental panel on climate change, where it was just a non-government organization that was just basically fact-checking this thing that was put out saying that the science is wrong here, the science is wrong there. I just don't like consensus in anything scientific, and I think we're just being fed to, like, there's scientific consensus among all scientists in the community who agree that man-made global warming is a huge detriment to climate change, to the planet. We're all going to die in 100 years if we don't change this. So that's the one thing that concerning global warming and climate change that I absolutely don't agree with. I think everything's being exaggerated to scare us,
Right.
and to get us to buy, electric cars and to pay a carbon tax and to have wind and solar power when it just doesn't logically or scientifically make sense, when nuclear power is probably a pretty good answer to energy efficiency. That's how I feel about it anyway. I just don't like the alarmism.
The only book, and I didn't finish it, I actually would like to finish it. The book that I read is called The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels.
Yeah, I met him and interviewed him.
Yeah.
By Epstein.
Right. Yeah. Alex
Yeah.
Epstein. I met him when he was on Candace's show. Really nice guy. I actually just messaged with him a couple days ago because he has a newsletter he sends out about the climate and energy. And so I was like, put me on the list because I want to learn more. That's a great book to start with. I mean, that was kind of my starting point, is that everything that we've heard about fossil fuels from mainstream media is just not true.
There is a great book that you suggested a book. I'll suggest this book. It's a book of fiction, but it navigates itself amongst real science and real events. It's called State of Fear by Michael Crichton, and it's one of the best books I've ever read. It's basically, it's kind of like a spy thriller, but it's really like, it's not a science fiction, because sci-fi, you always think of like aliens and outer space. This one is, science fiction, but it's really, really, really good, and it's really about how the corrupt corporations who are promoting global warming and climate change are actually, pretty evil. It's a great book. It's called State of Fear. But there is an acknowledgments section in the back, and there's a glossary, and there is a timetable in the back with it's just an interesting book. So if you want to read something about climate alarmism, you can.
I'll put that on my list.
It's really, really, really good.
One thing that does annoy me is that I see a lot of conservatives who think that there is no value in treating the environment a certain way. They just don't think there's any value in preserving the earth.
Yeah, like, you don't have to be a tree hugger, but when you realize that factory farms are not a good thing.
Right, exactly.
When you realize that nuclear power is a good thing and you should be looking into it more. But a lot of the problems with nuclear is how expensive it is to build nuclear reactors. The problem is that people are too hung up on technology from the 80s, and they hear about, nuclear fallout and nuclear reactors failing, when I don't think there's... I think the total amount of people who were killed in Chernobyl was maybe like 20 to 25. No one died of Fukushima. 3 Mile Island was the same thing. So the amount of... They want to make you think that like millions of people have died from like radiation fallout, which isn't true. And the... Like, iPhones have gone through how many generations now? Do you know that nuclear reactors have only gone through 5 or 6?
Wow.
It's just because they scare people into not wanting to develop, new technology for nuclear. But nuclear reactors now are one of the most fail-safe things in existence right now. And when they do fail today, if they do fail, the fallout from them is super, super minimal. But the fact that people want to invest more in wind and solar, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, you don't have to be a tree hugger. You can realize factory farming is bad. You can realize nuclear is good. You can realize that the oceans are extremely polluted with plastics and stuff like that, and that there are bad practices out there.
Right.
But to say that, we're all going to be dead in 15 years is absolutely ridiculous.
They predicted that in the 70s, in the 80s.
Yeah, even later than that too. I mean, Al Gore said in 2005 or 6 or whatever, in 15 years, we're all going to be underwater. Yeah.
Well, we're not underwater now, are we?
We ain't underwater now. And what I keep on forgetting to do is telling you people to subscribe, to like and subscribe. I should be doing that in the beginning. Like, Joel should be holding up a sign that says...
Let's just make a sign and then put it there.
Like, tell them to like and subscribe. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make the sign.
Make the sign, Joel.
We should talk about immigration in one of our next episodes.
Okay. Yeah, you really want to talk about this.
Yeah, I feel very strongly about immigration. Yeah, that's actually... Yeah, I think we should shut the borders for a little while.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Nothing controversial there.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that people think that's controversial.
Yeah.
Really, it is.
Absolutely ridiculous. Also, Saint Nick, teach your kids who he really was. Look it up. Greek bishop, slapping other bishops across the face.
Slapping the base.
Going to jail for it. You know what's really cool? Nicene Creed. I did talk about it. Look it up. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's what I like about the Catholic masses, is they kind of have like a lot of call and response things where Christian churches are just They don't. I don't know. I've never really.
Yeah, Protestant churches don't have that.
I was baptized Lutheran, and then for
I
whatever
didn't know
reason,
that.
yeah. But then in the 4th grade, I was rebaptized Catholic.
So did you get confirmed into the church, into the Catholic
Yes,
Church?
yes. 8th
Oh,
grade,
okay.
I did all that communion.
You did all that.
Yeah. I did it later though in life. But yeah, it's really cool. We believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all that is seen and unseen. Like saying that with an Irish accent. We believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all that is seen and unseen.
Have you seen the movie Belfast?
We believe in Jesus Christ. Who's in that?
Jamie Dornan. The preview looked really good.
Yeah. It's in black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looked
I want to
really
watch
good.
that.
I would like to watch it too.
Oh, also, did we talk about the Last Duel?
No.
I
You
watched it
mentioned
last
that.
night. Really good movie. Check it out. Matt Damon with a mullet in 14th century France.
Where did you see it? Where can I see it?
It's on Amazon. He plays Jean-Luc. What the hell was his name? Jean-Luc. I don't know. Jean, but his name was Jean.
The Duel. You said Matt Damon and Ben Affleck?
Ben Affleck's in it. Yeah. Ben Affleck's got a bowl cut with a little blonde bowl cut. And
I saw clips of him on Howard Stern recently.
It's a good movie if you can suspend your reality and think of Matt Damon, Adam Driver, and Ben Affleck.
Adam Driver's in it?
Yeah.
He is one of my favorite actors.
Mm-hmm.
I adore Adam Driver.
I don't have an opinion really.
He's fantastic in
good.
everything he does.
He yells a lot.
In the movie?
Yeah, and no, in movies in general.
No.
In Marriage Story, he's just yelling the whole time.
He yelled once in Marriage Story. I really enjoyed that.
And in the Star
that
Wars,
movie.
he's yelling a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Have you seen... Okay, wait, one more thing. Have you seen the SNL skit of Kylo Ren going undercover?
No.
Like undercover boss?
Oh, really?
It is so funny. So Adam Driver plays Kylo Ren as if he's going undercover, and it's so funny. You have to see it. It's one of the only funny SNL skits
I'll watch
that
it
exist.
after we end this show. You've got a call in half an hour, right?
Yeah, so I gotta pump and get myself in the car.
Like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'll put it at the beginning of these episodes. If you guys like these episodes, seriously, like them, share them. It really
Yes.
means a lot to us, because
Please do.
if you don't, then what's the point of doing it? 'Cause
And
we could do this on the phone. We don't have to do this, in front of a camera for you guys.
Yeah. And if you have questions, if you want us to talk about anything specific,
Mm-hmm.
send them over.
Yeah, we'll try to devote maybe one episode a month to just full Q&A. I think that'd be nice.
Yeah, I think it's good. It's a good idea to do
and we'll
that.
probably be doing more episodes per week, like maybe 1 or 2 per, who knows?
Yeah, we would like to do 2 a week.
Yeah, ideally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye.